The Call to Arms event in Destiny ends tomorrow, and I kind of just want to give my thoughts on it and feedback regarding it, now that it's basically coming to an end and we've seen the entirety of the event and all the changes that have been made over the course of it and everything like that. So let's get into it. Call to Arms was the first time, at least that I can think of, that Bungie has ever tried to do a PvE style competition type of event. And I honestly think it went over pretty well. I think there are some things that really didn't land about it and some problems that probably shouldn't have arisen in the first place. But I think I can just look back on that and say that the event was a success overall, regardless of all of that. And I definitely want to see this event come back, which it is coming back later in Renegades slash maybe in the free update. I forget exactly when, but I'm glad to hear that it is coming back because I think it's something that Bungie can continue to do and improve on over the course of time. And I think it's really good for the game just to have these types of PvE style competition, considering there's not really anything like that in the game right now. So it's definitely a breath of fresh air for it to be there. I also think that it was good that it kind of served as a catch up node for people who hadn't been playing the game very much for the last several months now. But anyway, the first thing that I really want to talk about is the actual activities selected for this event, which I think is probably the weakest part of the entire event, honestly. I know Bungie was probably just trying to fill all the bases of different types of activities to diversify things, but I feel like they still kind of missed on that mark given the fact that raid and dungeon activities weren't included in any capacity to this event. And for an event that's at least to some extent aimed at the top players in the community, I feel like that's kind of malpractice, honestly, given that, this is the first real PvE competition that we have outside of the World First race and stuff like that. But I understand that one of the main underlying issues there is the fact that raids and dungeons aren't really included in the portal in the first place and aren't really accessible to players at the moment outside of just doing for legacy content. So, I mean, it's just kind of a reflection of the state of the game at the moment. And I really don't like the Heliostat exotic mission, so it being included already kind of doesn't make me happy. But other than that, I think for the most part, the rest of these activities felt in line with what should have been there. And I don't think that Heliostat being there is really the issue. I just wish that a different exotic mission had been there. I think the format of the event is fine. It's just kind of like, yeah, Heliostat's really not a very good mission. I did really enjoy seeing the coil included, though, as something that I really missed running and haven't really felt like I had a reason to run since they brought it back to the game, so it was definitely a welcome addition there. I think Proving Grounds was a fine addition to the event, honestly. I mean, we had to have a strike, and Proving Grounds is fine, so, it works. As for the Crucible side of the event, at first I really hated it because they added locked new weapons and armor, but after the changes where they removed that, I honestly thought it was fine. Although I will say it felt like getting the top percentile in Crucible was next to impossible even while having incredible games. Like it felt like even if you had a game with like 40 plus kills and led the team in caps and stuff like that, you still weren't guaranteed to get the 1%, which I guess is fine, but everything else felt very attainable, whereas the Crucible one it was kind of just like I don't know what more I could do. Like I'm top fragging, doing everything I possibly could, and it's just not happening. So I ended up getting the top 10% for Crucible. But everything else, just I felt like the difficulty of getting a top percentile of it was pretty in line. And obviously, I guess that probably makes sense that the Crucible one was the hardest to get a top percentile on, given it's probably the one that displays the most skill of any. I guess I was just never sure exactly how they were calculating that. One thing I will say and commend Bungie on is the fact that they were actually willing to listen to feedback and alter the event, because if it had stayed in the state that it was in when it first released, the community probably would have unanimously agreed that it was absolutely terrible. So thankfully, they were willing to listen to feedback and make changes to the power scaling and all that stuff. When I first heard that you had to be basically 550 if you wanted to have any chance of getting the top score, I immediately knew there was going to be a problem and honestly didn't really feel that inclined to participate. So I'm glad to see that Bungie made some changes early enough that people were able to get in and get the scores that they needed, even if they were a little underpowered. I didn't really feel that requiring people to be at 470 or 480 or whatever it is to unlock Ultimate was that big of a deal because most people that are going to be getting top percentile scores in the first place probably were around that, but I do think that getting to 550 would have been an extreme stretch and just honestly made no sense in the first place. I don't know why that was factored in at all, and I'm glad to see that Bungie made changes to it, but I hope that in future iterations, that's just not something that we have to worry about whatsoever. And I know with Renegades not really getting a power reset or anything like that, we probably won't have to worry about it by that point, but still. Also, I know that some people have been upset that it became easier to hit the top score towards the end of the event, but I honestly think that just for the overall state of the event and the community morale regarding this event, they definitely needed to make the changes that they made. There was just no way that they could let the event play its course and not do anything about the power scaling and things like that. So, if that's the sacrifice that it takes for us to get good changes that actually made the event better in the long run, I think that that's definitely worth it. Also, this isn't specific to Call to Arms or anything like that, but it's just kind of talking about Destiny events in general with this. I think that it's really good that we're getting the free tracks now. Those definitely add a lot to the events, a lot of cosmetics, a lot of rewards that you can earn from them. And they're just a really good change for the game that I'm really happy to see is staying around. I hope that when Bungie brings this event back around in Renegades that there are some new activities to choose from, like a raid and dungeon each, or at least a raid or dungeon. And since Bungie's adding a lot of six-man activities to the portal and Renegades, I think it would make a lot of sense for them to include some of those in the competition, although I don't really know how you'd keep score of that, but I still think it would be a welcome addition to the event. And one more thing, the amount of weapons that you could chase in this event was great. I know that a lot of these weapons, if not all of them, were basically weapons that we had already seen before, but I still think that it was good that they were included, and having all of that to focus and go get, especially for players that were catching up, definitely was a welcome addition. As for my final thoughts, I honestly thought that this event was a huge success for the game. It made things feel a lot more alive during a period of time where things hadn't been feeling very alive, and that was a breath of fresh air for sure. And I don't know if this will make sense, but I will say that it was definitely welcome to see kind of a sense of community for the first time in a while in the game. You know, it feels like everything has kind of been disconnected since the Portal release. We're not really, too concerned about what the community is doing. So it was kind of cool for us to all kind of be in the same place for a couple weeks just grinding this stuff out. Also, I think it was Scarrow who said this, but it would be really sick if going forward, every time this event came around, Bungie introduced another piece of armor to the set to eventually complete a set of flaming armor. That would be awesome. But at the very least, I think this event did a good job of just kind of filling a gap until Renegades released. I had fun with it. I had fun grinding all the activities and just, just having something to do in the game. So definitely a welcome addition to the game. And going forward, I can't wait to see it return.